Thanks for tuning into the Cocktails with Jim podcast. We've hit the big time. I'm here with Nick Slavik. Nick, thanks so much for doing this. I need to explain how we know each other. So, Nick and I are both from New Prague. Nick still lives there, or I guess on the outskirts a little
You
bit
don't have
now,
to say
right?
it like that, Jim. You're like, well, Nick still lives there.
I, sorry, man. I'll
Dude,
try
it's like,
harder.
dude.
Nick was one of the cooler older kids in the neighborhood. We grew up only a few blocks apart, and it was like Nick and Steve and John. And you remember Steve having the fort above his garage and all that?
Oh, yes, good times.
We're taking it way back. So I've known Nick for a long time. I've followed his career a lot on social media. I worked for Nick for one summer, and I'm sure I was probably the messiest painter he's ever had on his crew. No.
No, Jim, listen, you can only guess as to yeah, no, we've had all sorts, but Jim, you don't give yourself enough credit. You're an all-star apprentice.
Oh my, you're too nice. Nick is an Army veteran. You did a tour in Iraq and Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, right after high school.
Thank you for your service, my
Yeah,
friend.
thanks, man.
Nick started a painting business after working for his father, which is an interesting story. A lot of interesting circumstances
Very.
surrounding that. It's been publicized and everything. He's talked about that plenty. Nick's won a ton of awards. He is on the chair of the PCA, right?
Yep.
Nick's known internationally. I know you're dialed in Brazil, so yeah, he's kind of a big deal. Um,
Okay.
Nick, I'm going to ask you 10 questions here. I'm a cheapskate and I'm on a free trial of Zoom, so we have to limit this to about 30 minutes. And it was hard prepping for this because you've talked about so much
Yeah.
on social media, but I did my best. Okay, question one. Here we go. I followed your career. I noticed a change around 2014, 2015. When I worked for you, I think it was the summer of 13 or somewhere in there, and you were basically a one-man show. You had one guy that was also a teacher, that was your main summer guy, and then you had a couple guys that were homeschooled, and then me and like one other dude. So you were the one-man show. And I remember at that time you were booked so far out, and I think that was a point of pride for you at the time. So what what changed? Because you all of a sudden your company got big. Was it the social media? Was it the PCA? What happened?
Yeah. So what's very interesting is before social media, I had always been on social media, and before the PCA, I had only been involved with the PCA. I probably started with the PCA after I knew you, maybe even multiple years after we worked together. So really what happened was you caught me in the slack tide of realizing I need to shed some of the old ways, not only of the way that I was brought up in the trades, but of have all the trades have been, right? That long standing thing of there's old grumpy guys who yell at young happy people, and that's how the trades work forever. And I realized that I was sort of that. And you probably caught me at the time where that's how I was raised in the trades, and I was shedding that old grumpy Nick and becoming sort of the leader that I am. So you caught me at a very unique period where it's two things, which is I never thought I was a sucker for actually doing the trade. I love this craft, right? The easiest day in my life is practicing this craft. I mean, it's so satisfying to me. But I do also realize that there's so much more potential out there, and I love teaching it to other people. I love creating opportunities for those around me too. And what you caught me in the phase is of that is I had no idea where this was going. I just knew there was more there, and I was trying stuff. And you were probably standing there with me saying, "The hell's this guy doing out here?" And me, I was just like, "I have a feeling I'm gonna do stuff."
Awesome. You have four kids, right?
Four kids. Yep.
Four kids, you're happily married. What have you done to put up some barriers between work and family life? I know one of them for sure. I haven't called your business line in a while, but for a while, if you dial the 758 number, it says right on there. I'm probably saying it wrong, but you're like, I don't take calls on Fridays because that's family time. And that's awesome. I've never called someone and heard that before, but it's like I totally respect that. You're like, yeah, you
Yeah. setting those expectations. So what I will tell you is that sometimes people can look at social media, and we all know that it's not a true snapshot of life. But what I my ethos with social media is to make it so accurate that nobody would be surprised. Like, obviously, I'm not going to show you every bump and bruise. I'll show you most of them, but I'm really going to try to, everything I post is going to be a good snapshot of who I am and what I do. And I do not want people to understand that I am just, after 32 years in this industry and 16 years of running a business hard, now barely getting a semblance of work-life balance. And right now, the way that I'm doing that this year is I have a spreadsheet where I focus on 7 areas of my life. And on each of those areas, you have a short, medium, and long-term goal. And you basically break it down. Nice mug and nice hat, by the way.
I
You
don't have
basically
coffee in this, by the way. Thank you.
so I break it down by important steps that I need to do to accomplish things in those areas, and taking daily and weekly micro steps in each of those. Sometimes not, it doesn't even feel like you're making progress, but you take those micro steps and a year passes and you're like, oh my God, I've accomplished something big. For 1 year, I've had the goal of having evenings and weekends with my family. And last year, I physically put myself in my house near my family. But there's a huge difference between being there physically and being there spiritually, right?
Yep,
It's
I
called being
understand that.
present.
Yep, I
And
get it.
so when your mind and body are in your same place, you are present. And I don't believe you can truly be present all the time. But right now, after a year of intentional practice, I am the most present I've ever been in evenings and weekends and things like that.
That's great to hear. I'm sure your family certainly appreciates that and is reaping the benefits of it as well.
Absolutely. Well, they have given me all the grace to do whatever I want to grow my businesses for 15 years, 16 years, and now it's payback time for them. I owe them.
Nick's wife is a saint, by the way. She's a lovely lady. I've met her a few times.
Yeah, I'll vouch for that.
um, you're still a young guy. But what does retirement look like? Are you going to be the guy that, you're going to have a hand in this company forever? Is one of your kids showing interest in taking over? Will you sell? Have you thought about that at
Yeah.
all?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is that the truth about what we do, and I love unvarnished truths and brutality a lot of the time because it really focuses you. The truth about even this, my business is in the top, maybe 1/2 of 1% as size in the country. That is not a boast. That tells you how deeply fragmented and unprofessional the home service trade is, that a business like mine is in that echelon of that. My business, I would consider right now barely sellable, right? There's lots of people who would buy it only because there's not a lot of good options out there. But a sellable business is one that can run without the owner. I still have my hands in just enough stuff where if you plucked me out, it would be an operable business. It would do fine, but you'd have to pluck somebody back in there who really knows what they're doing. This is not a passive income, no touch business. So what I don't envision for the future is selling this, because service businesses have the ability to make a lot of cash every year, but they don't necessarily, like, this isn't a grocery store where you have this huge building and a parking lot and assets to sell. Really, our assets are our people, and you cannot sell them. You should not sell them. And honestly, people come and go from work. So really, sometimes service businesses are just kind of like fleeting ideas in the wind. Now, having said that, our business is at a revenue point where we absolutely could sell it for good money, but that's not what I've tried to do here. We still have so much untapped potential. So number one, I know that if we want to take this anywhere past me, I have to saddle up with some sort of partner, and partner can mean many things, right? It could be somebody like a general manager to run the business. It could be an equity partner. It could be a group of people that want to buy into it. But I do know that we're going to have to expand beyond me, because I will become the constriction point of this business, and I will physically stop the progressiveness of it at some point. So I love this. Right now, if you shake me out of bed and ask me what retirement is, it's having a big, huge commercial building where all of our vans are lined up outside, and a finishing facility and a training facility and an office where I show up to work and I coach my key people. I maintain the culture of the business, but I remove myself from a lot of the things that constrict the business, like marketing and recruiting and things like that. And I would love to contribute in the way that I can do best and let others contribute in the way that they can do best.
Awesome. This is sort of a, I don't know, maybe a nerdy painting question, but I know you like getting those once in a while.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
what what drives the influence on paint color trends, and right now, there seems to be this theme of everyone wants the pure white, sterile looking kitchen with, you know, where does that come from? Who decides that that's cool? And then how long it lasts? And then when the golden oak finish stuff, which as you can see is I love this, the wood stuff. I think wood should look like wood, man. No offense to anybody that's got painted white cabinets, but like who decides what's cool, how long it lasts, and when something else comes back? I don't get that.
I can offer you one thought that I don't oftenly make public, which is I did the color consults for 10 years. I did a free color consult for every single one of my clients for 10 years. I know deeply what the magazines, I have a stack of design magazines, and what advice and what is trending in design magazines is not what I gave my clients advice for, and not what my clients wanted. So the thing that I can say is, we could always do the knee jerk reaction of, listen, we think about the zeitgeist of politics and religion and social media, and there's trends and things that come out of it. And it's like, you know what? I think people like change. I think people like change more and more on a quicker cycle. So if you think back to golden oak, tan walls, red dining room, uh, sage green kitchen, that lasted for like 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we quickly rapid cycled to cool colors. And now we quickly rapid cycled to whites, right? I all these things are very basic trends. Like if we saw every single house get painted a very specific shade of purple, that is a trend, right? But when people waffle between all the basic things in life, that's like saying a white t-shirt and blue jeans is now trendy and back in style. It's like, no, it's been around for 100 years, and it used to be on a 50-year cycle, then a 30-year cycle, then a 20, and now it's literally every 3 years we waffle back and forth. Like Sherwin-Williams just debuted another of the hottest, trendiest color. It's goldenrod yellow, right? Like here we are back at the warm colors again. So
Mm-hmm.
I think people read, this is me getting a little spicy.
That's fine.
I think
Spice away.
people I think people read into a lot of emotions when really the decision is, if you actually get the truth out of somebody, why did you change your whole house over from a cool gray taupe to white? They say, I don't know, I just needed a change. And I think that was the thing that they saw the most of in their neighbors and felt comfortable with, if I'm honest. Now, having
Fair
said that,
enough.
there's a lot of things that I like, right? Because you saw my old historic home, gold leaf, grass cloth, purple, green. The outside of my house was orange. I
Mm-hmm.
now live in a house that's an art gallery, right? It's like everything is this cream color. I wanted a change. That was a historic home. This is a brand new, modern, efficient home. And I wanted glass and I wanted white. So even me, I go through it.
I guess similar to growing up, my parents' house, all the walls were white. That's what my mom wanted, just a nice, clean look. And my home now has all sorts of different colors. We have the tan, my kitchen's yellow, my entryway is yellow, my hallway is puke green, which I'm gonna have to get some of your guys over sometime because I'm too lazy to do it myself. But yeah, we have all sorts of colors. And so yeah, I guess now when you kind of explain it in those terms, that makes perfect sense.
And people go through metamorphoses too, right? Like
Yeah.
when we first bought our house, I was going to improve this house with color as a painter, right? And now what I realize is, now that we're a little more mature and we have like beautiful things that to hang on the wall that mean something to us, and like barrister cabinets and very deeply meaningful pieces of, I'm not going to call them art because this isn't like some pretentious art gallery, but we have like a lot of meaningful pieces of family furniture. We can now let those things be it, and not gold leaf and grass cloth and decorative paint schemes on my ceilings. And it's just metamorphosis and phases of life, Jim.
Got it. Got it. Your work is all over. Some projects locally. I just drove past the Union Hill ball field.
Mm.
You painted that silo with the Giesenbrau, which is a brewery in New Prague. They make really good beer. You did that. Did you do the sign at Memorial Park? Maybe
Um,
some
I
what some
There was about 12 years ago, I restored the main wood sign for Memorial Park. Yep.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yep.
You've done work at St. Wenceslaus. You
Yeah.
did the mural at Montgomery Brewing,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is awesome because if I have my facts straight, Montgomery Brewing is in the same site that it was pre-prohibition, right?
Yep. It's been
And
over there for, I don't know, 100, 110 years.
you can't swing a dead cat in any city and not hit four breweries, and that place makes a good product for
Yes, it does.
sure.
I've tried them all.
Good for you. So do you ever drive past that stuff and just go, I did that. My guys did that.
Yep.
Is that a point of pride for you when you see those things? Because it's your work's all over.
It is. I was just talking. We have a big project in New Ulm, which is like a second home to me. And I've
Hmm.
done Victorian mansion restorations. We're restoring like 60 historic pews in a 110-year-old church right now. And when you drive down the streets of New Ulm, you can see all the Victorian mansions, one particular street that I hand restored over the years. And I get a ton of pride out of that, knowing that it was my blood and sweat and love that restored those. I think I actually get more joy out of going by like the big mint green house in Le Sueur, the big
I know
Victorian mansion right
I've
there.
seen it. Yep, I've seen it.
Yeah. We restored that one about 2 or 3 years ago, and I only did about 2% of it, but I guided 20 master craftspeople and a restoration carpenter on it. And I look at that one and say, that is a harder thing. And I'm more proud of that than it is just doing the work myself, because leading through other people, and especially young people, Jim, you know, our workforce, there's nobody that's worked for me for 20 years, some old crusty master crafts person. Like they're all literally in their 20s and 30s. So if you can lead through them and they can do masterful work like a 32-year veteran, like that to me is the highest calling of a craft and a calling of a trade.
For sure. I know nothing about owning a business, and I am not trying to ask anything about your financial situation. But when you own a business, how do you figure out how much money to allocate on salaries and benefits for your employees, on gear? How do you figure out how much to pay yourself, when
Ooh.
to give yourself raises? This is probably something you could talk about for a day, but
Oh, dude, this
do you,
is
do,
this is
do you
imprinted on the front of my forehead.
do you have a finance? I'm really not good at math. I hate mathematics and it
I don't
hates me
believe that.
too. So, oh man, I would have to have a person managing that, or I would spend all my money and be broke. So how did you figure that out with such a big company, and how do those things go?
Yeah, so the one of the little hacks, the unwritten hacks of owning a business is that if I wanted to start a musical instrument rental business, what I would do is go to the musical instrument manufacturing association, whatever trade group that you have. Like there's a group of, there's trade associations for businesses that rent and sell and make musical instruments. What I would do is go to them, join that association, and I would say, "Hey, do you guys have a commonly agreed upon set of industry benchmarks?" And I built this company without those. Having built the company and joined the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association, I realized that there is a commonly accepted set of benchmarks and I could have saved myself. So in every industry, there is variable expenses and fixed expenses. Variable expenses is things you only incur when you incur business. So for me, if I don't have any paint jobs, I don't need to buy paint. I don't need to buy labor. Those are called variable costs. As I get more jobs, those costs go higher. Less jobs, they go lower. Then there's the fixed cost, which everybody calls overhead. You pay this whether you have jobs or not. So this is the killer of a business, right? You buy a facility, you buy a fleet of Ford Super Duties, you're paying for that whether you have money or not. So there's a commonly set of industry benchmarks, and these aren't going to be all that different. With a service business, we're going to be heavy on labor and less on materials. In other businesses, like a home builder, it's going to be a little heavier on materials and less on labor. You have a business consulting firm, it's going to be 100% labor, right? There's not going to be a lot of material inputs. So what I know now is that about 15% of my revenue will go towards paint. 40 to 45% of my revenue will go towards painters. Like literally half the money I make will be paid out to my painters. And then 30% of my money will be spent on overhead. And if I do everything right, Jim, if everything goes right all the time, I coach my people well, we do good work, we maintain a good reputation, I might have at the end of that for myself between 0 and 15% of all the revenue. That's called the net profit of a company. And that is your reward for taking the risk of doing that. So if you, Jim, like when we painted your house, if you give me $1, if everything goes well, I put 5 cents in my pocket at the end of the day as the business owner.
Gotcha.
Everybody else
Thanks.
gets paid. So yeah.
Thanks for breaking that down a little bit for me.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
I'm gonna give you two of mine, and then I want you to give me two of yours. The cringiest things you've seen on a job site. Okay, so I painted for you for the one summer, and then not too long ago, I had a maintenance and painting gig at a school district, not the one that I work in, but a different one. And I remember texting you a little bit and asking you questions here and there, and you were always really cool to get back to me right away. And but
Always.
I've seen outlets rolled right over, like to the point where like the neutral and the hot are like they have their paint covered. It's
You got to
like
break through them with a plug.
take the cover off. It doesn't take very long. I was also in a house one time, and the basement had a hot pink and like a lilac purple in stripes. It looked like a
Ooh.
hangover. It was the worst. So give me your top two cringiest either colors or painting fails you've seen on job sites. Not by your own people, of
Oh
course.
yeah, yeah. No, no, we never fail. That's
I
just
I I know. I know. That's why you're you.
so two cringiest things are I can think of like 74 and a half examples of this of, hey, 14-year-old son or daughter, we're gonna let you paint your own room. And for every boy, you know exactly what this is. Black.
Yeah.
This is my Metallica room. And this is gonna be everything is just death, black, sadness, you know. And they get a little on the middle of one wall. They try to paint the ceiling. It's a disaster. There's no tape. And I get it. It's a pretty dramatic effect, but it's very badly done. And now there's like paint on all the woodwork. And when we come in, this poor like family, they're like, this is supposed to be like a culture building thing for me and my son or daughter. And we're super angry at each other. Our house is ruined. And now we have to pay a professional to not only paint, but to fix. And fixing, like scraping and delicately removing all that paint off of woodwork takes 8 times longer than it does to actually paint the room. So it's one of those things where it's like, I understand, like as a parent now, I understand, like, yeah, take pride in your own room, take ownership of it and make it what you want. And then
Yep.
it's literally, you have to replace carpet and your bed's full of paint and stuff like that. So, um, number two, so that's like a physical paint thing. Number two, I'm trying to think of a specific thing, but I have been, I have been, when I was the sole estimator of the company, I was doing 800 estimates a year, Jim, for free for people. I would
You're
literally go
nuts.
to somebody's house 800 times a year for free. I would drive to Minnetonka, an hour away. I would stand there for an hour, give them a free estimate. They would say no, and I would drive home. 3 hours of my day, and I would do it 800 times. Well, not everybody says no, as you know, but um, I have such an interesting slice in humanity. I got to see how 800 people live every year for the last 16 years. And so when somebody is like, oh, hey, when you come in, or like my wife is like, oh, don't have people over, our house is a mess. I'm like, if you've only seen what I've seen, some crusty, I have that stare like an old Vietnam veteran. It's like, you've not seen the things I've seen. Okay. Cringiest thing, I will give one that did not happen to me, but happened to my beloved estimator, Andy. He walked into a house, standard operating procedures to take off our work boots, takes
Hmm.
off the work boots. Dog proceeds to walk over and pee directly inside and put a half inch of pee inside of his boot.
He probably had
Client,
it. Those boots probably stank. He probably had it coming, man.
Jim, this client. And so, okay, dogs do what dogs do, right?
Yeah.
And this client looked at him and said, oh, that's just Buzz. Now, I'm going to have my cabinets painted. Do you want to take a look at these? And Andy's literally standing there like, are you not even going to talk about what just happened? Your dog assaulted my boots. These are garbage now. I don't have shoes to wear home. And the client just went on with their day about talking about, oh, that's just Buzz. Yeah. So that, Jim, is one of, I mean, now we have two estimators and we do 1,900 estimates a year. We see a slice of humanity. Like I can't even calculate the amount of weird things we've seen, but those are two little snapshots of humans' lives.
That's hilarious. That's another reason why I have a cat. Cats are the way to go. A
Oh,
cat would
dude.
a cat would not do that.
No. And people love to have their dogs out for estimates. Fine. I'm a dog lover. We got a couple too.
Sure.
But dogs do not add value to a painting estimate. And literally, these guys spend all this time, these dogs are scratching at them, hands up on the thing, getting mud everywhere. And the homeowner's like, they just want to smell you. It's like, your dog, we love dogs. We're all dog people, but this dog is not adding value. If you put him in the garage, this would be a lot better for us. And we just want to be nice. But at the same time, it's like, this is adding a lot of friction to our process. This is a free estimate. Can you please make it easy on us?
Fair enough, man. Um, What kind of music do you listen to hype yourself up in the morning when you're clicking through emails or whatever it is you do in your office? Like what gets you jacked for the day? What are you listening to right now? I like to talk about music with everybody I have on.
Oh, dude, you know music. You've turned me on to some great, great music. And I have a Spotify playlist where I'm not going to be that guy who's super pretentious and say, "Oh my God, I have like, Persian jazz fusion from the 50s and Morgan Wallen." I have all that stuff on there, but I don't want to be that pretentious guy that comes off as like, "Oh, my tastes are too deep for normal people to understand." Like, honestly, the I find myself right now, I go in phases. I'm trying to search for the song here. Um, a lot of times I don't even know the artist. I just hear it, I put it in there, and then I go for it. I literally have been putting on repeat. Do you remember Project Pat, the rapper? Oh,
No.
dude, so, dude, I got turned on to somebody turned me on to said this must have been like, uh, a hip hop from 1996, but there's a dude named Project Pat and he's just got some great songs and I found one I like and for the last probably 2 months it's just been on repeat when I sit here. It's uplifting, it's good, it's charging and you know what? In another month I'll probably hear something else and switch to that and yeah, it's just yeah, dude, Project Pat, the specific song is Choose You.
Okay, I'm
I've
writing
just
this
been
down here. I'm
I've
gonna
just
check
been
this out.
hammering it, man. I've been hammering it.
Nice.
But
All right.
one of the better music things I did was I went on a treat with a bunch of people and we did a pontoon ride in the middle of the night and we rotated. Everybody else got to pick a song. Every time somebody picked a song in the middle of the night, we did this for 3 hours. I added it to my Spotify playlist and it gave me 8 months of new music listening. So
Nice. The streaming services are awesome. I've gotten into that as well. It makes life way easier. All right, I got my final question. Um, I don't really have any real goals or anything with this podcast other than it's just a phase I'm going through right now. And I want to, my dad has a lot of cool stories about when he was in Vietnam and when he got out of the military and when he worked as an air traffic controller. And my main goal here is to get him on tape to tell these stories while he's still healthy and all those things.
Mhm.
But another thing that I want to do, and I'm not just saying this because you're sitting here, I have a real great appreciation for tradespeople. I'm having my favorite plumber on next week that's done a ton of work in my house. My father-in-law is an electrician, and as a homeowner and a dad, I have a lot of respect for those type of people. You are always going to need an electrician. You're always going to need a plumber. You're going to need a carpenter. And I know you and I have talked about this, and I'm grandstanding a little bit here, but I do think that public education needs to do its part to promote the trades.
Yeah.
I went to college. I have a 4-year degree. I have a master's degree and I have a principal certificate.
Yeah.
That does not make me better or smarter than anybody else. I don't feel that way. I don't act that way. I try not to. And I think we need to celebrate the trades. I think young people need to understand that these are good, honorable careers that pay well. And you're going to get out into the world not saddled with a ton of student loan debt. And I think those things are important for people to know. So, rant over, off soapbox. What can we do to promote the trades and to get more people into the trades? And what are you doing? Because I know this is something you're passionate about as well.
The most passionate. I mean, if again, if you were rich beyond belief and you didn't have to work, that's always the test on what your passion is. If I'm asked that question, it's get involved with youths in an interesting way that I don't hear very often, which is I too have a bachelor's degree, right? It
Mhm.
did not prepare me for owning a business. I am not anti-college. Some of the most formative years, Jim, I did 4 years of active duty service during 9/11, Afghanistan, Iraq. I came back and got a 4-year degree and I decompressed in college. The most formative human in my life at that time was my literature professor, creative writing, plays, poetry, things like that. I mean, it was like the best decompression and self-actualization period of my life. So what you will never get from me is college is stupid, public education is stupid. Everybody should send their kids to the trades so that I get more painters. I would love to do the middle ground, which is college isn't evil, tradespeople aren't dumb. You can do both. What I'm interested in is getting entrepreneurs into the trades. We are force multipliers. And I don't want just anybody in the trades, right? I only want you in the trades if you're going to win and you have the personality for it. So I think the best thing we can do and what I've sort of doubled down in, in my document with 7 areas of life. One of them is getting involved with a community. And when I do that, I go into the high school and I talk about entrepreneurship, right? And I see kids' eyes light up because entrepreneurship is universal. And when I was going through high school, I was not a horrible kid. I was a little bit rebellious. I did almost no work and got B plus A minus grades. And I was just that example of like, this is fine. I know you want you to comply with the system, but I feel like if you just let me go, I could accomplish more. And that's basically what I am going back to the schools now saying, I wish somebody like me would have come back to the schools and said, hey, if this is you, if you kind of like excel through this, getting mediocre grades with almost no effort, and you're itchy to go do something else, and you're really curious about the world, you might be a business owner and an entrepreneur. And you're not going to find a lot of people like you. So you're not going to have this like commiseration of humans there to be with. But if somebody would have pulled me aside and said that, I probably would have saved 15 years of angst after, because everywhere I went, you can imagine, Jim, me in the military is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I am not a compliance guy. All the military is compliance. College, it was okay. You could be a little more creative. Then I started my own business and my wings opened up. I could do whatever I want. I could crush hours. I could innovate. I could do tests. I could fail when I want so that I can learn and do better. And so when I get into the high schools now, I talk about the earning potentials of entrepreneurs, which is a surgeon, an MD with 8 years of school, 10 years of school, $500,000 of school debt. Starting salary is about $200,000 for a surgeon right out of med school. If you can cobble together a $1 million painting business, which sounds like a lot, but it's really only about 7 or 8 employees, 7 or 8 subcontractors working for a year, you can produce $1 million of revenue. And if you are a good manager, you can bring home almost $300,000 of take home pay for that. Risk and reward, but with no investment in college. So this is not me saying don't go to college. This is me
Sure.
saying
I'm not saying that either.
no. And if you want to get an entrepreneurship degree, it'll set you up better for that opportunity. And what I'm interested in is finding your passion and time and money freedom machines. And if you being a manager at Best Buy is your passion and it creates all the time and money freedom you want, perfect. You found your spot. But if starting your own business is, perfect. You found your spot. And I'm there for all that.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks so much for doing this, Nick. We're gonna link up to your socials here. Nick's podcast, Ask a Painter Live, his show is great. There's so much good content just for homeowners and all sorts of things. And yeah, you should definitely check out his social media if you're not involved and hire him. Nick painted my house. I get compliments on it all the time. And no job is too big or small, right? You'll come in and do a bedroom or a
Yeah.
couple doors or whatever. So I appreciate that about you too. It doesn't have to be this big, grandiose, expensive project. You will get it done and it will be the best paying job there is. So, Nick, this has been great. I've been looking forward to this and you did not disappoint. So, thank you, sir. We'll talk again soon.
You're the best, Jim. Thanks for the opportunity, man.
Take care.
See you, buddy.